Hey y'all, this is Chef Megan from Edible Schoolyard, New Orleans. Today we are going to work on something that my friend Chef Iris wanted to make, and that is mint chocolate chip cookies. Now, when I first heard that we were going to make mint chocolate chip cookies, I looked everywhere for mint chips, those little green chips that look like chocolate chips. I could not find them. So we are going to use these. These are called Andes mints. You've probably seen them in your grocery store. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to unwrap all of these mints. So that'll be a fun job for you kids to do, and don't eat them all while you're unwrapping them. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna take these mints and we're just gonna cut them into little pieces that are about the size of chocolate chips. Again, a great job for kids. Now what I'm gonna do is I know we need a cup of chocolate chips and a cup of these mints, and that this container is 2 cups big. So I'm just gonna add these until it reaches the top of my container, and then I'll know I'm done. So the first thing we're going to do for this recipe is take all of our dry ingredients and whisk them together in a medium-sized bowl. So the first thing we need is 2.5 cups of flour. And remember, my container only lets me put the half cup in. So if we're doing 2.5 cups, how many times do we need to do it? A half times what equals 2.5? So there's half. There's 1 cup, and I'm using my knife to level. There's 1.5 cups. 1.5 plus a half is 2 cups. And then 1 more equals 2.5 cups of flour. And then we need 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. So once again, most people don't have a 3/4 cup measuring cup, so we're going to use our 4th cup. If we need 3/4 a cup, how many of these do we need? We need 3. So we're going to do the same thing. This is messy stuff, so be careful. All right, and try and level that as best we can too. There's 1. Smells really good though. 2. Now kids, I know you're gonna be tempted to eat this. It looks like chocolate. It smells like chocolate. Not saying you shouldn't try, but don't try too much, because I have a feeling that you're not gonna like it that much. There is no sugar in here, so it is chocolate, but it's not at all sweet. Okay, so there's our flour, there's our cocoa powder. We need salt and baking soda. So we need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So we're gonna get our teaspoons and tablespoons. So 1 teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna find our half teaspoon here, take our salt, level that off, and then we're gonna whisk that all up. And again, be careful, because that cocoa powder can make a mess. We're gonna whisk it all. Our next step is going to be to do our wet ingredients. So I have 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of softened butter in this bowl. I put it out to soften before I started this recipe. Then we need a cup each of brown sugar and white sugar. I'm gonna use this half cup again. So how many half cups go into 1 cup? That's 2. And this recipe calls for loosely packed brown sugar, so sometimes we would smash it down, but this time we're just gonna kind of make sure it's about even. We're not gonna smash it. All right, so that's a cup of brown sugar. Here's a cup of white sugar. And I'm gonna use my fingers for this part. So I have my sugars and my butter in a bowl. I'm gonna use my fingers. I'm gonna smush everything together until all that sugar is blended in with the butter. Now parents, if you have a stand mixer, if you have an electric mixer, by all means, you can use it. I'm coming from a place where I am cooking with 12 kids at a time, and we want to keep everyone busy and entertained and occupied, and this is really fun. It works really well. So you can do this, but like I said, if you want to use a stand mixer, go for it. If I was at home by myself, that is what I would do. So I'm gonna work all this butter into all this sugar. All right, so now I have my sugars and my butter all mixed together, and that was actually pretty fun to do with my hands, I have to admit. Now we are going to add 2 eggs, and remember, this is the fun part for kids. Watch out for those shells. Gonna crack that on the side, dump it in there, do it again. No shells this time. Then we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. Remember, that smells so good. It doesn't really taste very good though, so take a little sniff. See, what does that remind you of? What else have you made that has vanilla in it? I bet by now you guys have cooked a lot of things with vanilla. And then I'm gonna add a teaspoon of peppermint extract. I just happen to have this in my cupboard. I don't even remember what I used it for. The recipe does call for it, but if you don't have it, I wouldn't really worry about it. We're gonna be adding those mint candies in here, and I think that'll make it minty enough. So if you have peppermint extract, go for it, but I wouldn't take a lot of time trying to find it. All right, so now we're gonna get this all mixed up with our spatula. We may even have to go back in there with a whisk. But you're just gonna work that together until it's all mixed. All right, so I got my wet ingredients all mixed together. I did just use a spatula. You know, one of my pet peeves is when all your batter gets stuck in your whisk, so I didn't want to do that. So now that we have our wet ingredients mixed, our dry ingredients mixed, we're gonna add our dry to our wet, and then we're just gonna stir that up too. All right, did you guys make as much of a mess as I did? That cocoa powder is no joke. But anyways, our batter is all mixed together, our dough. So now we get to add our chocolate chips, a cup of chocolate chips, and a cup of our mint candies. And then we're just gonna stir it up again. And then we get to make our cookies. Okay, so now we have our baking sheet. You can spray it with a little bit of cooking spray, or you can put a Silpat pad or some parchment paper on it. And then you can either use one of these guys, which you can take to scoop up your cookie and then put it on your sheet tray. Or if you don't have one of those, we can just use a spoon, take a scoop, and then, great job for the little guys, roll it into a ball and put it next to the next one. So I'm gonna do that. You should too. So I scooped out all those cookies, and if you are like me, you probably don't need like 36 cookies today. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook about 9 of them, and then I put the rest on this sheet tray, and they can be close together, because what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this in the freezer for about an hour until these get hard. Take it out, put them in Ziploc bags, like a gallon Ziploc, and put it back in the freezer. And so whenever I need a cookie, I can just put it in the oven and cook it then. So I'm gonna take these guys, I'm gonna put them in the oven for about 15 to 18 minutes or until they turn shiny, and I'm gonna put the other ones in the freezer. All right, y'all, I took these cookies out of the oven. I wouldn't say they were shiny, but they looked done to me. So if they don't look shiny, I think it's okay. Just kind of use your best judgment. Let's give these a try. Chocolatey and minty, kind of reminds me of the holiday season. So I think I'm gonna save those cookies in my freezer until winter comes, and then I'm gonna cook them. So thanks for the request. Have a good day. I hope you had fun cooking these. Bye.